Hello.
Okay, እንደምን ዋላችሁ ሁላችሁም. Welcome to this very interesting webinar on community-based education. My name is Dr. Samuel Mangustu from Ethiopian Medical Association. Today, the speaker will be Dr. Tagwar Igzau, and the moderator will be Dr. Solomon Balai Faris. So I will give the floor for Dr. Solomon Balai Faris to introduce and to moderate the session. starting from now onward. So Dr. Solomon, the floor is yours. Thank you very much and have a good luck. Dr. Solomon, please unmute your computer and start introducing.
Good afternoon, everyone. Maybe good morning, wherever you are from. As introduced by Dr. Samuel, my name is Solomon. I'm an assistant professor at Addis Ababa University on science education. I also work closely with all the friends on medical education, which is a favorite field of mine. You know, community-based education is a subject very close to my heart. I have so many interesting stories to share, but today it is, I don't want to take the spotlight from Dr. Tagbar Yigzao Sandake, which I will introduce shortly. Basically, he is a person that we should know very well, and also we should utilize very well. I think I always felt Dr. Tagbar is not really well known in a sense, because with his potential that he has. I will give a brief bio of his, and then I will ask him to proceed to the presentation. Dr. Tagbar is, you know, a public health physician with more than 20 years of professional experience as health workforce expert, academic, and leader. He received his PhD in public health from Vrije University, Amsterdam, in 2017. His fellowship in medical education from Femer Institute in 2011. He has got MPH from Addis Ababa University in 2005 and MD from Jimma University in 2001. For the last 15 years, he had led JPIGO, successful donor-funded health workforce strengthening projects, taking progressively greater responsibilities over time. Currently, he is the chief of party for the USAID-funded health workforce improvement program, which aims to improve quality of pre-service education, regulation of higher education institutions, and continuing professional development, strengthen health workforce management and regulation capacity, and institutionalize evidence-based decision-making in health workforce policies and plans. Prior to that, he was the technical director of the USAID Strengthening Human Resources for Health program from 2012 to 2019. Some of his contributions include development of national human resource policies and plans, design of innovative curricula, facilitation of faculty development programs, establishment of national licensing examination, strengthening of education accreditation and quality assurance systems, development of standardized continuing professional development system, introduction of gender transformative interventions, and generation of human resource evidence to inform policies and practices. Dr. Tagbar Yigzao has also made important contributions to academia and research, has taught and advised several health professionals, students at University of Gondar, at the Continental Institute of Public Health, Gambia Medical College, and Jimma University for 2 decades. He also served as the head of the then School of Public Health at University of Gondar. Currently, he co-supervises 5 PhD students and contributes as co-editor and reviewer for different local and international journals. In addition, Dr. Tagbar Yigzao is the president of the Ethiopian Medical Association, as you know, who also organized this particular program, and board members of the Ethiopian Public Health Association, Sante Medical College, Wachamo University, and St. Paul's Hospital Millennium Medical College. So he is a person with rich experience and knowledge, and I think he's also an appropriate person to speak on community-based medical education. So now I will invite Dr. Tagbar. He will have his presentation, and then we'll open the floor for comments, questions later on. I sincerely appreciate and welcome everyone. I invite Dr. Tagbar to proceed with his presentation.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. I think
Yes.
I will hear you.
All right, okay, very excited, to have the opportunity to speak to a topic I deeply care about. I care about health professions education, and among many things, community-based education, I believe, is key to transform healthcare professions education and prepare the kind of doctors and healthcare workers our health system and society needs. So I'm very delighted to have the opportunity to share my thoughts with you and look forward to hear your perspectives and insights and see what we can do together, to strengthen implementation of competence-based education and professions education in Ethiopia. I will start by defining some common terminologies, then spend a little time explaining the rationale for community-based education, then probably spend more time with my colleague, Professor Tafarra, who I believe have joined by now. Professor Tafarra, are you here with us? Professor Tafarra from Jimma University, someone who has gone through community-based education as a student and has led and witnessed the growth and transformation evolution of community-based education as a faculty and leader in Jimma University. Professor Tafarra, are you here with us? Sami or Dr. Samuel, do you see Professor Tafarra? If not, please help him to join.
So I can't see. Maybe Dr. Samuel will assist or check, and you can proceed with the initial presentation, I think.
Okay, so I just wanted to highlight in the middle of my presentation, I would invite Professor Tafarra actually to share Jimma's experience implementing competence-based education, because Jimma is a pioneer and could be seen as, I think, trailblazer in spreading community-based education in Ethiopia. The last part of my talk would be about common challenges in implementing competence-based education, and what are some of the principles and success factors that would enable medical schools to implement competence-based education more effectively. All right, so in my view, almost all medical schools or health colleges, for that matter, are currently implementing community-based education in some form or amount. If my assumption is right, the purpose of this presentation is not just for us to talk nice things about community-based education, but to help medical schools to improve the quality and sustainability of community-based education, not as an end by itself, but as a means to improve quality of medical and other healthcare professions education. To get there, we'll define what community-based education is in the context of healthcare professionals training, explain why it is necessary, describe approach and activities that will help us to implement competence-based education, and then identify common challenges and success factors, as I mentioned a while ago. But if some of you are still contemplating to introduce community-based education or do not have community-based education, I hope this presentation would help you, to initiate community-based education. So what's community-based education? I think I would like this to the extent possible to be participatory, because I believe we all have, some experience as a student, as a faculty, implementing community-based education. So I would encourage you to use the chat box, to ask a question, to share your comment, and respond to my questions in the presentation. So I would appreciate, if you can just write a word or two that describe community-based education. I would be monitoring the chat box. So what's your understanding of community-based education? I see Professor Tafarra has joined. I think Mazgabu wrote in the chat box. So if you are here, Professor Tafarra, please unmute yourself and say hello. I would like to recognize your presence, and I am really looking forward to hear from you about Jimma University's experience in implementing community-based education. Professor Tafarra. In the meantime, I will be watching the chat box what participants think about community-based education. So what's community-based education? Says teaching learning that takes place in the community to supplement hospital-based learning. Thank you, that's great. I don't know, Ben, why? My apologies, as I'm not able to say your full name. Is a means of achieving education relevance to community needs. Guade says CB is using community as part or center of team learning forum. Coordinate learning activities that utilize community extensively as a learning environment. Haptamu CB is a practice of using community as a learning teaching environment. Excellent. Okay, so I see there is a message from Ima, like since we cannot accommodate more than 100 participants, inform your colleagues who are not able to join to follow the direct Facebook live streaming. Okay, Bakalu also says using the community as a learning environment. Professor Tafarra, of course, the guru with us, is an education philosophy of innovative schools, bioeducation relevance. All right, great. So I think it's just to be sure, we're on the same page. Otherwise, I'm not going to give you something that you don't know. So community-based education, as you have rightly pointed out, is an educational strategy which uses the community extensively as a learning environment. Now, these are things that I would like you to pay attention to. Yes, it is learning in the community, but important to remember, in community-based education, it's not only students, but also teachers, community members, and representatives of other sectors are actively engaged throughout the educational experience. So I think we'll come back to this in our discussion later. It's not sending students to a particular community or field. Teachers should be involved, community members should be involved, other sectors should also be involved. So it's not seeing the community as a place to learn, but valuing the community and other sectors as important resources for educational experience of learners. And it can take place in a rural area, in an urban area, or a suburban area. Again, I'm mentioning this because I believe there is some misconception about community-based education. Some people think it's only rural training. The place where community-based education can take place can vary from family homes to villages, or health facilities like health centers, or private clinics, primary hospitals, general hospitals, schools, shopping centers, farms, prisons, factories, or community-based organizations. So a range of places, can provide rich community-based learning experiences. Another important definition is community-oriented education. Community-oriented education, I think some of you alluded to that box, is training of health professionals that it takes into account the health needs of the community we are mandated to serve. So in Ethiopia, our training should primarily be geared at addressing the health needs of the Ethiopian population and the local community where your medical school is located. Another important concept here is the training addresses not only individual health, but also population health. So when we talk about community-oriented education, it's about prioritizing national health needs. It's about training students about population health as well as individual health. Moving on. So how is community-based education implemented? There are different approaches. Again, this is not intended to say whether it's in Ethiopia or internationally, schools are implementing one or another, but it probably helps us to have a perspective what the focus of the community-based education is. Some community-based education programs are education focused, so their primary and a large part of their work is to maximize student learning or training. This can happen in the community, it can happen in a primary healthcare center. Others are more service-oriented, where the purpose of community-based education is actually to extend health services and health information to underserved population in urban poor areas, slums, or rural communities. Or it could have a broader objective of collaborating with government and government stakeholders to improve the life of a particular community. Community-based education could also be more research-oriented, where students and teachers conduct a study out of a community, in which case it's community-based, or conduct study in a health facility. I think in our country, you see that this element exists in some amount. Maybe it varies from place to place, but I know all these three elements are there. Are you still with me? Just checking if my audio is still okay. Maybe Sami, if you can confirm, or Dr. Salomon. Are you still able to listen to me? Do you get clear? Am I talking too fast? Can someone confirm? Okay. Okay, I see a yes response. Thank you. I'll carry on. Now I want to shift gear and talk about something which is important, which is why do we need CBE? Like in medical curriculum and other health professional curriculum, there are a number of things we ask of our students. There are a number of things we ask of our teachers. So why is it important to have community-based education in addition to the hospital-based learning, the skills lab, the classroom lectures? So again, let's use the chat box to share your thoughts, why you think CBE is important. I'll be watching the chat box. Share your thoughts. Why is it important? What are the rationale? If someone asks you, why should we be investing in community-based education? Why should we use the finite time and resources to do community-based education? What would your answers be? Because prevention is better than cure, so implying CBE teaches students preventive strategies. Professor Tafra says it helps students to develop 21st century skills like problem solving. What they say is, okay, a number of responses. Real outcome, equip students with competence they would never learn otherwise, couldn't say. All right. Keep it coming. To address community needs. YS, some of you have abbreviation, so I do not know what your full name is. Antana says because engage students with the community, take students out of the classroom to the community. Great. Samira says with limited resources, we can address community issues efficiently. Maza for problem solving. All right. Mulukan to teach public health. All right, these are all great points. Okay, so let me share with you what the literature reports as evidence of the value of community-based education as key strategy. I'm not proposing community-based education as to replace other education strategies, but there are certain things we wouldn't gain if we don't have community-based education. So what will students learn if we have community-based education in our curriculum? So first off, it enhances learning. I think it's important to remember community-based education has education as well as policy imperative. I would describe the policy rationale for community-based education in a while, but let me start with the educational values. For public health teaching, in the absence of community-based education, the students would only be, learning theories in the classroom. So community-based education actually gives students an opportunity to apply and test what they are learning theoretically. Not only that, community-based education actually helps or provides an opportunity to learn in context, because students get to see the communities they are going to serve. They get to see the health system they are going to join by the time of the graduation. So it sort of prepares them for their future role as professionals and makes education relevant, makes education practical, contextual, and interesting. The second thing, I think this was mentioned earlier, is a means for achieving educational relevance. Because if you have community-based education, students know the communities they are going to work with. They understand the economics, the social conditions, the environment, the culture. They also get to appreciate, population health problems. What are the priority health problems in the community? Do people have access to healthcare? How does the health system operate? How is the health system organized? So, students would get to know, actually, would be exposed and familiar with the health system they would be a member of, when they graduate. Another key benefit of community-based education is, equipping students with critical competencies that they would need to be an effective healthcare provider. For instance, healthcare providers need to be able to interact with the community when they graduate. So how would students learn interacting with the community or mobilizing the community if they don't have opportunity to work with the community as a student? Community-based education helps them to develop basic clinical skills, professionalism, empathetic attitude, and take this. Now, if we train students in a hospital or in a health facility, they see a patient, the patient is discharged, improved or without improvement, but they may not know what happens to the patient afterwards. In a community-based education, students have the opportunity to follow a patient even after discharge. So it gives them an understanding of continuity of care and what might affect continuity of care. Importantly, physicians and healthcare providers in the 21st century are expected to be leaders, problem solvers, collaborators, public health oriented. They are expected to do health promotion, particularly in the era of non-communicable diseases. We can't afford, to treat patients once they have fallen ill. So, when you put all that together, there is a strong rationale for community-based education. But there are also other important considerations. It's not sufficient to train medical students and health science students on the biomedical model of disease. It's important to go beyond biology and appreciate the social determinants of health. The social conditions one is born, in which one is born, grow, live, and work affect our experience of illness. Our ability to access healthcare is affected by the socio-economic conditions we live in. So, this is also an opportunity for them to appreciate social determinants of health. In community-based education, students have an opportunity to learn from other healthcare workers. It's also an opportunity to work with other healthcare professionals. And these days, if you look at it from health systems perspective, if you look at it from quality of patient care, you cannot achieve that without collaborating and working with other healthcare professionals and even working with other non-health professionals. And community-based education, provides you that opportunity. In places where people have limited health access, community-based education also helps to extend health care services. People in rural areas or urban slum areas can gain access to healthcare services because of the presence of community-based education. Again, you can reflect on your experience as a student and as a teacher in universities where there is a strong community-based education, and thousands of people are served every year because of community-based education. A strong international interest is on addressing health inequity, even in countries where access to healthcare has improved. There is large disparity between different population groups, particularly populations living in rural and remote areas. And what the evidence tells us is, medical students, health science students who are trained using community-based education strategy, who have rural placement, are more likely to want to go back and serve in underserved, remote and rural areas by the time of the graduation. Finally, I want to also talk about the importance of partnership. Universities have in their mission 3 goals: education, research, and community service. Universities engaging in community-based education is one way, a very important way, actually, to engage with their catchment population. It's an opportunity for them to engage with the local government and municipality. It's an opportunity for them to work with the local health system. And this strengthens universities politically as well as financially. So this is a good thing for any university to work very closely with local communities and local health services. All right, the third part, which is the practical. So if we, we discussed why community-based education is important. Now the point is, how do we do it? How do we do it in an effective, sustainable, and efficient manner? And I would like to call upon Professor Tafarra to share with us, his experience and insights and lessons learned in implementing community-based education in Jimma. Then I will come back and share with you international experiences from 3 other continents. Professor Tafarra, over to you. Professor Tafarra, can you hear me? Professor Tafarra, I will take down my slide if you confirm you can hear me. Professor Tafarra?
Okay, you are unmuted now. You can go ahead.
Professor, if you have slide, let me take down my slide and then you can share yours. Professor Tafarra, confirm if you can hear me. Professor Tafarra might have connectivity challenge. Sami, can you confirm if Professor Tafarra is able to do his presentation? If not, I can move on and let him speak later. Sami, can you hear me? Dr. Salamu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I hope Dr.
I'm not getting a response from Sami, so I'm wondering.
So what we can do is just in the interest of time, you can go ahead and finish, and then we will hear from Professor Tafara, and we'll make the discussion open for the audience.
Okay, great. I think let's do that. So in that case, let me resume my presentation. All right, so we'll wait for Professor Tafara to hear about Jimma University's experience, which spans more than 40 years, I believe, implementing community-based education. Let me move on and highlight experience of 3 countries, 3 universities from 3 countries. One is Brazil, another one is Suez Canal University from Egypt. The third one is Christian Medical College from India. Again, I mean, there are several schools around the world which are implementing community-based education in the developing as well as the developed world. But I thought these have some interesting experience that would inform our discussion later. So, University of Sao Paulo, they have been implementing community-based education for over 60 years now, probably older than or probably longer than our experience implementing CBE in Ethiopia. Of course, although Jimma is well known for its CBE history, we should also recognize the Gondar University Public Health College, in fact, started CBE first, like as the first health science college. So, just to acknowledge also the long history of community-based education in Ethiopia, in Gondar University. So, University of Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'm focusing on the CBE implementation in medical education because I think for this audience, while everything I say would apply to other healthcare professions, I just wanted to zoom in on medical education. So CBE is implemented across the entire period of undergraduate medical education, both during pre-clerkship and clerkship years. And important things I want to highlight from the Brazil experience is the pre-clerkship community-based education is managed not only by public health, but by also other clinical departments. The major clinical departments, pediatrics, OBGYN, internal medicine, surgery, even psychiatry and neurology. Of course, the invitation is extended to all other clinical disciplines, but these are the ones who have a long history of participating in community-based education of medical students in the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Students are exposed to different levels of the health system. They are assigned family homes. They conduct preventive activities, community health activities, and also learn basic clinical skills in pre-clerkship years. This is the second thing I want you to take away from the Brazil experience. So remember the definition of community-based education. Community-based education. Community-based education is education taking place in the community setting. That means education taking place outside the university hospital. One common misconception is, education taking place in a health center, a primary hospital. People may not see it as a community-based education, but that is what that's included in the definition of community-based education. And what they have been able to achieve in Brazil is 30% of clerkship rotations actually take place outside the university hospital. Think about this. So in our case, almost all clerkship rotations take place in the university teaching hospitals. Of course, internship in Gondar University, finally also medical students have rural placement. But think about the proportion of learning that happens in the university or tertiary hospital versus outside of that. In Brazil, 30% of clerkship rotations take place outside the university hospital. This includes family medicine units. These are health centers run by the family health team, where you have a doctor, a dentist, a pharmacist, a nurse, and other healthcare professionals. They have also integrated rotation at a school health center. The school health center is not a school, actually. It is like a general hospital, a secondary level hospital established by the university, so that students would get the experience of working in a general hospital, because the university hospital is a tertiary hospital. So they established a general hospital for their own purpose, managed by the medical school, but students are placed and they do integrated rotation, not department specific rotation, but integrated rotation. They also have rural rotation where they primary care, teamwork, home visits, school health education, intersectoral collaboration, like community projects. These three are largely managed by the public health department, but the OBGYN department also deploys students at a maternity hospital, a center, and one rural community health center to learn about women's health. Emergency internal medicine, department of surgery, and orthopedics department place students, 5th year medical students at general hospital to develop emergency care skills. Pediatrics department deploys students even during pre-clerkship, but also during clerkship, they deploy students at a community social medical center in a rural area. So what do you learn from Brazil? Community-based education takes place throughout the training, pre-clerkship and clerkship. Importantly, not only public health, but also major clinical are involved in community-based education. Third point, 30% of clerkship rotations take place outside the university hospital. So these are some pictures from Brazil. On the left, you see medical students doing visual test in a primary school. On the right, you see top left corner, teachers assigning students to family homes. Top right, you see students visiting chronic patients with chronic illness in their homes, also like lower bottom left. Now, let me share also the experience of India, Christian Medical College. They also have more than 5 decades of experience implementing community-based education. Again, CB is implemented throughout the duration of undergraduate medical education. In the first 3 years, in the first year, students have 3-week placement in the community to get to know the community, do community diagnosis, do health education, understand the role of other members of the healthcare team, also develop a concern empathy for the community. They also have a 1-week placement in a secondary hospital where they also visit, populations living in the catchment area. Year 2, they have a 2-week community health program where they do detailed community diagnosis, do a health intervention. They also have a 2 weeks secondary hospital, placement, which includes also community health activity. Year 3, it's similar thing, but at this stage, students have gained more detailed epidemiological study, implement health program through intersectoral collaboration, also evaluate some national health programs. Internship, during internships, 2 months community health practice in a rural area where they're assigned in a primary health center. So they work as a GP in a health center. They work on a primary healthcare activity. They conduct a number of preventive activities. They work with other members of his care team. They also work with other sectors to improve the community they are assigned. Similar to what we're accustomed to, medical students doing house visit, and then on the right you see a medical student conducting a health clinic in a rural village. So the clinic can be in a community, in a village. It doesn't have to be in a health facility. The third experience I want to share with you is one of the famous community-oriented schools in Africa, Rationale University. Again, with more than 5 decades of experience implementing community-based education. Just to highlight a few strategies they use. One is at a primary healthcare center. In our case, it could be a center or a primary hospital. The students have students are placed or go to the health center 2 days in a given week for the first 3 years of undergraduate medical training. The amount of days increases to 3 days per week during 4th year. They practice history taking, do patient examination, learn about communication skills. Importantly, they also help patients. This is how it's going to help them to develop professionalism and compassion and empathy. And their role, of course, increases progressively over the years, aligned with the complexity of the curriculum they are taking. And during year 6, for instance, the focus of the community-based education is learning managerial competencies, evaluating health services, and implementing quality improvement projects. They also do community survey, community diagnosis, do health education, and other community interventions. They also have a family health care program where students are assigned to a number of families in year 2 and year 3. So they regularly visit those families, screen them for health care problems. If they want to go to a hospital, they set up an appointment. They will provide health education. They will make sure children get their immunization on time. They also have elective studies where students choose to do a research on a particular topic of their choosing. This happens in 4th year. Interestingly, they also have exposure to industrial medicine or occupational health in year 4, where students have a 6-week placement in fact, where people might seek insurance for work-related injuries and do transdisciplinary projects. For instance, I read that medical students work with engineers actually to address some occupational challenges, just to show you the richness of community-based education, how it's implemented in different places around the world. So these are some pictures. Again, I think it's important to see on the left side, you can see a medical student sitting with members of the community discussing and prioritizing health problems. On the right side, you can see medical students guiding women to a clinic after taking a short history. So let me pause here and see if Professor Tafarra has joined before I proceed. Professor Tafarra, are you able to share your Jimma's experience, Professor Tafarra? Unfortunately, I'm not getting a feedback, so now, another important consideration, is it better to have students discrete block community-based learning experience, or they should have a learning experience which is continuous? So which one is better? So please share your thoughts on the chat box if you have understood the the distinction between the two. Block, for instance, like end of the year, take students to a particular location, do it for 4 weeks or 3 weeks. That is block. Continuous is, for instance, students go to a community learning site once a week or once a month, and that runs throughout the year or for a particular period of time. So which one is better? What are the pros and cons? What are the advantages and disadvantages? Share me your thoughts. Not just that one is better, but give me a reason why you think. I see many of you are saying continuous is better, but give me a reason. I think that way the discussion will be useful. Why continuous? Just give one reason. I prefer continuous because of X, Y, Z. I prefer block because of X, Y, Z.
Hello, Dr. Tagwar.
Oh, Professor Tafarra. Okay.
Very I was listening to you from the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So maybe just give me some 3-5 minutes for me to finish this slide. Then I will hand it over to you to share Jimma's experience. Is that okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So okay, because it ensures continuity, students can adapt, scale up progress, continue better because it helps to address emerging problems in the community. Magdas. All right, so it seems that many people prefer continuous. The dynamics of health is continuous, better the student to apply theory. Okay. All right, let's see what the literature says in terms of advantages and disadvantages. Again, I want to acknowledge, I'm not going to say continuous is better all the time or for everything, or block is better. I think each one has its own place and has advantages and disadvantages. I think it's important for us to recognize, what would we gain from choosing one approach over the other, so that we'll have a balanced approach. So block, the advantage of discrete block experience is immersion. For instance, if I reflect upon my experience as a student in Jimma University, when we did CBTP or TTP, CBTP for 4 weeks or 3 weeks, or TTP for 2-3 months, it's immersion. So you are there, so you get deep, meaningful learning experience. It also allows students to focus on that experience entirely. There is no competition, there is no distraction. That's the only thing you are doing. It's also easy to schedule. And with the resident advisors or supervisors, you have more time to provide mentoring. It's also possible to use remote and rural places when you have a block displacement, as was the case in Jimma University. For instance, I was assigned at Dedo, Warada, I don't know, maybe some 20 kilometers or so outside Jimma. Our TTP, I was in Asandabo, also about 20 kilometers outside Jimma. So you can't even go further. I know in Gondar, we took final year students to places which are 100 kilometers, 70 kilometers, 40 kilometers from Gondar. It's also easy to evaluate. But what is the downside of block assignment? It requires accommodation, because students have to stay there. If you are using resident advisors, preceptors, healthcare providers, it might be tiring for them. If students are there for 2-3 months and you ask them to supervise students for the entire duration, it's demanding. And it might get in the way of the patient care also, because when you have students, you have to take more time because there is teaching. If you are placing students in a private facility, that could also adversely affect their income. In a continuous rotation, the advantage is, as you have rightly pointed out, students can follow individuals, patients, or communities over time. So you can build relationship, you can see changes over time, you can come back and see whether the advice you have provided has been acted upon. You can see seasonal differences. It often doesn't require accommodation because students go for a day and then come back. But it's also good for integrated learning. Students can integrate what they are learning in the skills lab, in the hospital, with what they are learning in the community. And if you are using community level or primary health center preceptor, it's also less demanding on them. But conflict schedule is a big challenge, because students in a typical week have lectures, hospital visits, skills lab activity, basic science lab, and then you have the community. So scheduling could be challenging. It's not only that when students are doing CB in the middle of all of this, CB might be seen as a second priority. As I frequently hear from many institutions which are implementing CB and struggling to get student interest. Transportation cost, like if you're doing it every week, for instance, in Debre Tabor, initially the intention was to do it every week, but it's demanding in terms of resource, time for faculty, and cost. So let me pause here and invite Professor Tafarra to share the experience of Jimma. Professor Tafarra, over to you.
So I hope it will be finished before 4 p.m. so that others will have time to
program is until 5 p.m. soon, so that we want to finish at until 4 and get questions and answers between 4 and 5.
Okay, my program says until 4:30, so I was a bit cautious. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, Doctor. Hello.
You took down your slide. Initially, I saw it,
Hello.
but yes. Do you want to put up your slide again? We can't hear you. Great. Now we can see it. Please carry on.
Hello, hello. Hello.
Yes.
We can hear you,
Can you hear me?
Professor
Hello.
Tafarra. You can continue.
Hello. Can you see
Hello,
the slide?
Professor Tafarra.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, we can see that.
Simplified because Dr. Tagbar has given us a very nice overview of everything, but just briefly go through some of these issues, like the traditional started CBE, why historically, why Jimma started CBE, and I will give some experiences from Jimma, how CBE has been managed, and I will say some way forward. So the traditional higher learning institutions have their perspectives, just taking higher learning institutions as centers of excellence, attracting very creams of the society, and just paying attention to excellence in theoretical knowledge only, paying less attention to its application to societal, solving societal problems. And so creation of knowledge per se took the best share of educational endeavors, and the community was considered as passive recipients, and the communities were considered to have no knowledge of their own problems and their solutions. So these traditional universities were expected to bring change in the societal lives and quality of life and so on, but it didn't happen for so many years, regardless of the presence of these universities, and they became aloof of the societal problems as ivory towers, simply a place where only white collar academicians are gathered. So these traditional perspectives also transcended Africa, because African curricula was driven from the colonial heritage. So still the curricula were imported, the same pattern was taken, the traditional curricula continued. When we come to Ethiopia, we started higher education in 1950s. So again, these curricula were imported from the Western countries, little consideration of societal needs and educational relevance. So the traditional system continued. So the community was considered as passive recipients of any intervention, health interventions. But globally, there was a paradigm shift in the role of higher education. So the need for higher education to pay attention to societal problems and its relevance of education to solving societal problems came into being because of the movements in the 1960s and 70s. So which inspired these traditional schools to shift to innovative ways of teaching. So universities started considering their relevance to societal needs afterwards, and concomitantly in the 70s, there was this Almaty Declaration in Kazakhstan of the Health for All, and this Dr. Tagwar was talking about equity of health services. So health for all also further fueled this notion of universities not being relevant to societal needs. And the movement started in Germany and spread all over the different regions. And many countries started adopting community-based education. By and large, Dr. Tagbar was mentioning Suez Kalan University, medical school in Africa, in Egypt, and Gazira University in Sudan. Adopted, of course, Jimma University went for experience visit to these universities, and for establishing CB. So innovative schools started appearing, and the CB was adopted as educational approach to address societal needs, and it was used as a means of learning, as a means of achieving societal educational relevance to societal needs. So CB consists of the learning environment in which all students, teachers, members of the community, and other sectors, what Dr. Tagbar has explained very well, are learning together. I mean, are engaged throughout the learning periods of students. So in Ethiopia, the history of CB is linked to health professionals training. So it was first introduced in Gondar, where it was started as TTP, team training program, but a systematic and organized effort to introduce CB was launched or pioneered in Jimma University because of the different components that we have in CBE. So the former Jimma Institute of Health Sciences was established on with the conscious request of the then president of the country, Mengistu Haile Mariam, to generate, to establish a community-oriented medical school with the help of Cubans, and the Cubans supported. So then Jimma University was established with CV educational philosophy, community-based educational philosophy. And in Jimma, this was health science. Now when Jimma University became, grew up to university level, all the colleges followed adopting this educational philosophy. Now it is part and parcel of every college's educational curricula. So, when we define communities, this is for medical school. The medical school, Dr. Tagbar has defined it very well. But for others, the communities can be, for instance, for accountants, it can be, it can be different people. They can use the community again with their own perspective. So definitions can be dependent on the different disciplines. So when I come to Jimma University CBE, it has different strategies. One is community-based training program, which is undertaken by undergraduate students, team training program, and a development team training program. Again, this development training program is undertaken by postgraduate students, master students, and a student research project, which they will be undertaking at the end of their graduation. So why is CBE necessitated in Jimma? Because CBE, as Dr. Tagbar was explaining, will improve their skills, especially what we call the 21st century skills: leadership, problem-solving skill, communication skill, team building skills, the life skills, and innovative skills. So just to give you a brief overview of what these programs are, CB strategies are. CBTP, Community-Based Training Program, is one of the strategies where students are assigned to a particular community in an N-1 way. For instance, medical students will be assigned only for 5 years, starting from first year, and then there is team training program at the end of their training. There is the last year of their training when they are interns medical students, and other paramedical students are assigned as a team to a distant health facility or health center. The development team training program is for postgraduate students from different disciplines, simulating the different development sectors. They will be assigned to Wareda. Wareda is used as an entry point. They do a real work of research. They identify problems, mobilize resources, implement, and deliver that to respective sectoral offices and ensure sustainability, and then they leave. So research project is an independent research project that every graduate from Jimma University is doing. So when you talk about CBTP, community-based training program, it doesn't affect the traditional curriculum. It is just it spirals around the traditional curriculum in an increasing manner and in an increasing depth of service with the community. So there is a traditional curriculum that is hospital-based training of health professionals, but students every year go to the community, apply their knowledge. When they apply their knowledge, they just investigate the problems within the community based on what they learned, and they identify problems, prioritize, develop action plan, and implement, or just give recommendation if need be. So there are different phases. So in phase one, they do just basic data collection, social demographic characteristics, and then in phase two, they know the population. In phase two, they update this data, and then depending on the disciplines they studied, for instance, medical students study nutrition, parasitology, and other disciplines in the class. So they apply that. They do nutritional assessment. They do parasitological investigation, so stool examination, and other also immunization and other problems are investigated. They prepare action plan. They implement. They even give drug for parasite source. So they educate and so on. So they prioritize problems and intervene. In the phase three, again, they do update the data, and then they apply the discipline that they learned in the class. When they are in the clinical years, they apply, for instance, the gynecology, pediatrics. There are, this family planning and other issues. They investigate, the problem of antenatal care, postnatal care, all of this, and then they identify problems and implement. So this continues until they are interns. When they are interns, they will continue with team training program. In a team training program, they are assigned some at a distant health facility in Jimma zone, which is a health center, usually health center. So they just fit into the health staff that the health center has, and they divide themselves into static and outreach groups, and they do all activities. In fact, they go to prisons, they go to schools, they go to different communities, and they include that into their plan. After situational analysis, they get visited by supervisors every fortnight, and then they present their action plans, and then they implement everything and deliver final report for evaluation. For DTTP, I've explained it. This is for graduate students. So they identify problem and they solve the problem. The last component is student research project. The student research project, assists students to identify a very critical or public health relevant topic and do research, full-blown research with the help of advisors, and then they defend their research. They defend their research. There is oral examination that will be used as a basis for interviewing students on the final qualifying exam. So what do they benefit? Dr. Tagwar has explained, but they just go through problem-solving cycle, which is one of the skills in the 21st century. They define problem, understand the cause of the problem, list the possible solutions, select the solution, that means they prioritize, and identify the goals, implement the solution. In situations when they are short of resources, they just give recommendation to them. So they reflect on it. So this is a cyclic approach, so problem-solving approach. So they develop this skill. So in carrying out community-based education, they form groups, select team leader, rapporteur, logistic. So they share team approach. It's a team approach. Everyone has a role. So they identify community, develop investigation tools, that's questionnaires, and then gather data, process data. So all these are processes that can enable them to identify some skills, to acquire some skills. So they identify problem, prioritize, draw intervention action plan, carry out interventions, report writing, and a presentation. There is a symposium at the end of CBTP. There is a symposium where all scholars in the university are invited. In the olden days, even community members, community representatives were invited, and they listen to what they are presenting. There will be interview. There will be discussion and so on and so forth. So, why is CB included in the educational system? It's helpful to identify the community's problems. We have obtained feedback from trace and study, improve students' research undertaking skills. Again, we have research that's published on as a special issue on entrepreneurial development from trace and study. This was, students were evaluated by themselves, by their colleagues, by their employers. That's the strategy used for trace and study. So all of them rated, these graduates to have a better skills in these regards, and develop technical skills and managerial skills also. So having said this, the 21st century requires these skills: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, and information sharing, and media, use of media technology, and life skills like flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. So CBE enables students to acquire these skills, just achieving working in teams rather than working in silos, and now multi-sector, improving their multi-sectoral thinking and thinking across, different disciplines within the health team is very, very important. So by way of recommendation, honestly speaking, CBE or CBTP, there should be what Jimma has missed as an experience. I have to tell you not only the positive also, but the drawbacks that we should have done. There we used to be supported by Irish Aid, and Irish Aid asked us what experience or what achievement do you have from all these investments I made. So we couldn't generate that, but we did in indirect way. Just we compare CB and non-CB Warada. Still, there was a very positive effect of that. But what we could have done is we could have left core indicators that are usually should not be touched by students, but students can develop their own key variables for each phase, and then collect also these core indicators. So these core indicators would have told us what happens over time in CB areas, and we could have used that as an evidence. Maybe we could have used it as for time series analysis and see what happened to these communities when we just because of CB intervention. So that could have helped us. So this is one lesson we learned later. Just inclusion of core indicator, and other variables can be developed by students. So every year there will be generation of this data, so we can use it for evaluation. It's an inbuilt evaluation. It should be also, there should be documentation and popularization of this best practice as an avenue to develop 21st century skills. So we should popularize it, and we should document. Unless we document, it will wither away when individuals go away. This is actually what we saw also in Jimma. Its momentum has declined. So I was happy when Dr. Tagwar invited me to this forum. It could be an opportunity to enhance or revamp it again. So this is what I just want to share. If you have any questions, we will discuss further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Tafarra, for that, I think, wonderful presentation, sharing this rich experience of Jimma University in a short period of time, highlighting the successes, but also acknowledging some of the challenges in implementing community-based education. Now, if you don't mind, Professor Tafarra, if you can take down your presentation, I have, I think, some 2 slides, and then I think we'll open it up for, discussion, because we want to hear from everyone and see, because the purpose is, exchange of knowledge, helping us implement or improve implementation of CBE in our institutions. Okay. Let me see. You can't see my slides, right? Can somebody confirm?
Yeah, your slide is on, but your sound is breaking.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, go ahead, please.
All right. Now, I'll keep this short. I know some of you have written in the chat box regarding the challenges. I think the purpose of this slide is actually to identify the most frequent and the major challenges in CBE implementation, but also ask you questions that help highlight the principles that would help us to convert those challenges into opportunities. So these are comments, I've organized them into 4. The first one is around the students, and I hear this, from universities, and I of course I remember this also as a student. So the question is, students do not seem that excited about community-based education. Like, they are very busy. There are too much demands on their time. They want to be doctors. They want to go to the hospital, do the fancy stuff. And they are not excited about community-based education or the community experience or the rural experience. So some of the questions we need to ask ourselves is, do students understand the benefits of CBE? Have we told them? Have we had a discussion? Are we actually, as faculty, have we understood and internalized the benefits of CBE? Are we role modeling, actually, or demonstrating our belief in CBE? Another question to ask is, are students productive? If students feel, yes, they are going to the community or to their center, but are not doing a lot or are not learning a lot, then we shouldn't expect them to be excited about CBE. So are they getting quality learning experiences? Curriculum design. So, if you remember, when I compared block with continuous, one challenge with continuous rotation on CBE is, competition for time. So when we're asking students to do a lot in a particular week, they might see, the CBE experience as just adding to their workload. The second area is the relationship between the university and the local health service. Now, we say CBE would improve access to healthcare, can potentially improve quality of healthcare in that particular community. Students can also, contribute and generate evidence that would improve health systems performance. But the question is it? Does CBE actually improve access to quality healthcare? Are sites that are serving as CBE providing better quality healthcare? Do the local health system feel a sense of ownership of the CBE program? Do they have a voice in the design of the CBE program? If we are using healthcare providers in those health centers as preceptors, do they view it positively? Do they get any benefit out of it? CBE training, are they recognized for their teaching? The third set of challenge is about relationship between the university and the community. I have seen Shoatadak and others actually mentioning community fatigue, a common term in Jimma and other places. But the question is the CBE program serving the needs of students in the university, or is it also serving the needs of the community? Is there a balance between the education service objective? Maybe we are implementing projects, but are these projects actually community felt priority projects? Do our education programs disrupt community livelihood? For instance, when we send students to visit family homes, are those times, convenient times for those families? Are we getting in the way of their work? Maybe that's the time for rest. Do they welcome our presence at that hour? Again, is it co-designed with the community? Is there a sense of ownership? Do they see this as something serving the interests of the university, or they also see it as something that's helping them to improve their health and quality of life? Another major challenge is quality and sustainability. CBE, while it's useful and effective and has a policy imperative, it's expensive. It costs us, to transport students to a rural location. It requires transportation. It demands faculty, to travel with students and spend time per diem. How committed are our faculty? Do senior instructors participate in CBE? Do clinicians, go and support students? Because remember, the definition is not just teacher students, it's about teachers, community members, and other sectors actually involving in the educational experience. That would ensure CBE is not just a venue for teaching and learning, but also a venue for providing services. Is the university leadership committed to CBE? Again, we have heard from Professor Tafara in recent years in Jimma, there's a decline. So are current university leaders as committed to CBE than previous university leaders? What contributions do the local health system and government and community make to CBE? For instance, do community make accommodation available for students if that was required? Do the local municipality or health system make financial contribution for student-led projects that are designed during CBE? So these are some of the questions, challenges, but if we ask the right questions, would help us to turn them into opportunities. In conclusion, these are my take-home message. No question about the importance of CBE for preparing all-rounded doctors who have not only the competencies, but the behavioral motivation, to want to address the individual and population needs of their country, who have the 21st century skills, to work and thrive in any setting. But the curriculum has to be designed properly. CBE exposure has to start early, and it should continue until graduation. CBE objectives should include not only public health, but also clinical objectives. We should use a combination of approach and strategies. CBE should create opportunities for students to learn together and to work together. Supervision should be made by not only public health faculty, but also clinical faculty, not just academic faculty, but also preceptors in places where community-based learning is happening. Of course, a key consideration is how do we ensure commitment of our decision makers at the university, instructors and students. They should believe in CBE, do provide the necessary commitment in time and resources. We should also secure and ensure the ownership and engagement of the local health system, the community, government, and other sectors, and frame CBE as a way for community development, not just for education. So we should ask ourselves, in sites where CBE has been implemented for decades, how has the life of the community changed? Do people have now access to healthcare? Are children immunized? Are women using contraception? If these are not significantly different from non-CBE sites, then I think this is a challenge for us. Now, important point Professor Tafara raised is, as any educational innovation, CBE should be reviewed, it should be researched, it should be critiqued, it should be evaluated and continuously improved. We cannot just assume CBE would work. It has to be evaluated and it has to be improved. Thank you very much. I will stop here. I know we have taken a lot of time. Hopefully we'll have some time for discussion. Over to Dr. Sam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tagwar. That was a very great and concise, well, not concise, but I think explanatory, wonderful. And, because of also the participation, we can see that people have a good grasp of what CB is. And I don't dare to summarize or give anything about it. So we'll just proceed directly to question and comments. But before that, I also want to thank Professor Tafara, who is another friend. We have been working together in Jimma University. So I'm happy to see both of my good friends presenting here about CBE. But also we have to give also credit to all the professors who have labored so much to establish, to build, to sustain CBE in all the universities, Jimma University, Gondar University, and currently or recently, Devlet Tabor University. We should really, because we all stood, as it is said, on the shoulders of these giants. So that's why we have an experience to talk about, you see. Otherwise, it's a really wonderful presentation. So to start with, basically, as I said earlier at the beginning, community-based education is my heart. And I always say community-based education is a decolonizing agenda, If community-based education is not the mainstream education, then what is education, because I consider the current education like the Zoom technology that now we are having, because it is Europeans and the Americans that control the current education system, and we are producing graduates who leave the country and settle abroad, that's like they're the ones who control. So I always ask myself, if community-based education should not be the mainstream education, what else is then we have in place? That's a very important question that we should ask. And also there were concerns when I was heading the Jimma University community-based education, the university-wide community-based education. There was a concern, the big concern was not only community fatigue, but also that it was labor intensive and finance intensive. As you know, we should mobilize so many buses, supervisors to rural areas, and very important follow-up. This all the challenge. So now I will open the stage for everyone to ask, to comment, but I sincerely ask everyone to make a brief comment, like 2 minutes, 1 minute, so that most of us will have a chance to have a say. So raise your hand. There is a system, so raise hand, and then I will give you the permission to. Okay, I see Emmanuel. So at this point, Dr. or Mr. whoever, I'm just will be calling the names as I see them on the screen. So first Emmanuel and then Makdum. Emmanuel, please go unmute yourself and go ahead. I hope you can unmute yourself. Dr. Samuel, will everyone be able to unmute themselves?
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you, Dr. Sam.
Right.
Okay, can you hear me?
Sure, we can hear you.
My name is Emmanuel. I'm a new graduate from Devlet Tabor University. And I have been taking this community-based education for the past 7 years. And I just want to leave a comment in here. The problem when I was taking this community-based education in Devlet Tabor University, actually community fatigue was not a big concern, but the students, including me, were not that much knowledgeable about the use and practicability or applicability of this education system. So I really want to comment on the applicability of this community-based education regarding really how much useful in the near future for the university or the community, especially for the students specifically. So students were going to the community, but they were not really doing what they are supposed to do. They were living their own lives there. So this was the real problem there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manuel. Let's hear from Makdum and then Joel and then Dr. Tagbar. I hope you're taking notes and also Professor Tafara. Makdum, please go ahead.
Thank you, Solomon. Hello, everyone. So I've been having this CBE during my undergraduate education, which was amazing. Now, what I really wonder is this thing is not being implemented in a lot of universities that are giving medical education. So I was just wondering, how is it going to be possible to implement it in the future in places like, for example, Addis Ababa University or St. Paul's or the bigger universities, even in the Pioneer, where we have Gondar University, it's largely limited to TTP and it's not a longitudinal education of community-based systems that goes from year one all the way. So is there anything that we can, help the universities as EMA or as education experts? What's it that we can do? That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Makdum. Now I have Ashagre raised Alexa. Third, then after hearing those four, we will I'll give chance to Dr. Tagbar and Professor Tafara. But now Ashagre, please unmute yourself and
No, ተናግበ ሙሉ ዛፍ
can you hear me, Dr. Makdum? I mean, Ashagre.
or unmute.
Ashagre? Or we shall go otherwise to Dole. Miss Dole, I saw the name. I'm sorry if I am not pronouncing it well. Hello, or shall we proceed to other? I mean, if there is a technical problem.
Dr. Solomon, this is Samuel from IMA. I think there is no technical problem. All participants are allowed to unmute their
All right.
speaker.
So Ashagre, if there is no Ashagre, I will ask Dolok Tian. Please go ahead. Dol. So who is raising for Emma co-host? Is it Dr. Samuel?
In fact, it would be nice if others ሁሉም ተናግረው ቢጨርሱ መልካም ነበር, but I have a concern, one question, and I will direct this question for Dr. Tagbar. When we think of community-based education, we always have some notions and approach and methodologies to the urban section, sorry, the rural section of the community. If I'm not mistaken, mostly, Jimma is there any separate approach for the urban approach of community-based education, or all the logics are the same? Because the health condition, the demographic issue, and the lifestyle of the urban and the rural community is different. So is there any different methodological from pedagogic, administrative, and any other points? Thank you. Over to Dr. Salman.
So Dr. Tagbar or also Professor, go ahead, please. Maybe you want to address the question of participation or also interest in them about this pragmatic approach regarding like implementing everywhere, including at Sabah University. So please, let's hear from you, and then we'll get back to the other audience members.
Thank you. I was also looking at the questions in the chat box. I really would like Dr. Solomon also to talk to some of the issues that are raised, because I know you care about this, and I know you believe in the value of harnessing the community as a resource for education and decolonizing education, because some of the issues are related to how we conceive modern education should be, designed or structured, and part of that is also, discounting the potential of the community for our learning, and forgetting actually we are training to serve the community. So if we are not going to the community, then who are we training for? So you cannot train people in a cage in a university compound without sufficiently understanding the populations they are going to serve, their systems they are going to work in, and then expect them to be the best doctors, the best healthcare providers that meet the demands of the society, that understand priorities of their system. That requires knowing the society, knowing their system. So I think I would let you speak to that, but let me just reflect a few points. I think Manuel, again, thank you, for asking that question. I think this is a challenge we have known. It's not unique to Delta Tabo. It is a global challenge. Students are not as excited, going to urban slums or rural communities, or spending time in a primary healthcare center or in a village, doing things that they think community healthcare workers do, because they think, doctors and other professionals should be learning in a hospital because that's what they are going to do. But I think that's where the misunderstanding is. We need to understand the health system. Even if you are not supposed to work in a health post, you should be able to work with health extension workers. You should be able to train them, supervise them, support them, understand the challenge they have. You should be able to understand the challenge patients have accessing and interacting with the health system. That cannot happen if you don't go to the community. But you are right. So, the challenge is, one is awareness problem. So do students understand the importance of community-based education? How much time do universities spend orienting students about major educational strategies, their philosophies? For instance, could students choose not to have a hospital attachment if they are to become a medical doctor? Could students choose to skip basic science lab? They can't. These curriculums are designed, the curricula are designed to prepare and equip students with the desired knowledge, skill, and attitude. But, we don't want students to do it because it's required. We want them to do it with a conviction. We want them to understand its benefits. So it's up to the medical leaders, faculty, to explain that to the students. It's also a supervision problem. So, if students are left by their own, then they don't know what to do. They're not using their time productively. Then I don't blame students because they don't know what to do. They are not being supervised. They don't know the tasks. They might feel ill-prepared, okay, you visit a community, you go to a community, you visit a family, what are you going to do? Your teacher should be there with you to help you, to help you navigate, what you learn, and to help you also provide service so that you feel a sense of accomplishment. So there's an awareness issue, an implementation problem, a curriculum design issue, supervision problem, and maybe students have seen clinical instructors, probably de-emphasizing community-based education. So why should they be interested? Because the senior doctors are not actually valuing community-based education. They are not there to supervise students. So there are a number of things to untangle there. How do we promote? Again, I think there's a lot of work to do. This is part of that work. IMA is doing this medical education webinar series. One selected topic is CBE. For those who are implementing CBE, this will help them to improve implementation. For those who are struggling or unsure, we're trying to raise awareness, so that they understand the benefit. But we all should be advocate, ambassador, and champion, and we'll continue to do that. But we know it is actually part of the curriculum, so it's there in the curriculum. The issue is, do faculty and academic leaders understand it and are committed to implement it? Cost effectiveness, again, these are issues that we need to evaluate. But the question is, cost effectiveness has two elements. Effectiveness, so is it producing the desired knowledge, skill, and attitude? We have listed the critical competencies community-based education would help students to develop. How much resources are we putting in? And then we should ask ourselves, are there more cost-effective ways of delivering CB? But that requires research and evaluation. The issue of finance, shortage of finance, I think it will always be there. Whether you do community-based education or not, clinical education, laboratory, classroom, hiring educated faculty, developing faculty, all this requires resources. I think that's the kind of commitment as community, as government and institutions we need to have if our goal is to improve societal health, if our goal is to produce competent and capable graduates. Finally, CB, rural or urban. I mean, as I've mentioned, the CB can take place in a rural setting. It can happen in an urban setting, semi-urban setting. But the reason CB tends to take place in rural areas because one objective is to extend access to health services. The whole primary healthcare movement, the whole notion is, how do we make healthcare accessible to most underserved populations? So, when we do CB in the urban areas, we go to urban poor, urban slums, people who live in informal settlement, who have limited access to healthcare. When we go to rural areas, because we know rural populations in remote locations, people do not have access to healthcare. That's the reason why CB prioritizes rural, remote, and urban slum areas. But CB can take place anywhere, okay? Even in wealthy neighborhoods. But there is, I think, a value, because when we do CB, we also want to extend service, and we want to extend service to those who don't have access to health services. I think these are the major issues that were raised. Thank you.
Maybe one thing to add, Dr. Solomon.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tagbar has addressed maybe to emphasize maybe the issue raised from graduate of Devra Tabor. I think students, when we are students also as students who pass through CB, we used to give less attention to this program, especially early on when we were just fresh students, second year and so on. But at that time, there was a very, very, very strong supervision, and our role models, you teach attitude by being, by just showing up, not by telling theoretically. So our instructors, including the head of the institute, were present, in the symposium, were present during supervision, clinical instructors were there. So we give it a very due attention and a huge emphasis. Now the issue is, CB is not something that makes students suboptimal. It's a plus to their standard curriculum. So there are two philosophies in health approach. There is upstream approach, downstream approach. So, if we take an analogy of a big river, without bridge, taking people, somebody builds a bridge and it shows people swimming, so they won't fall after all. If they fall, they will swim out. So a clinician who has the best knowledge of clinical skill, as well as knowledge of what's happening on the ground, inquisitive knowledge or inquisitive mind of trying to link the clinical presentations with what's going on in the society, is required to just cover the problems, because we need the upstream approach, going to the source of the problem, going to those preventive, promotive aspects as well. So if we equip our physicians with these skills, they will be super, and they will be like super physicians. There's no problem. So, but students do not recognize. For me personally, I learned my writing skills during CBTP and other engagements. So I really I appreciate this value when I went to a postgraduate study and then later during life. So I think we have to show the students that this is a noble, very important thing, and supervision, as Dr. Tagbar said, supervisors should give it a weight, first of all, and for the students to give it a weight. So this is what I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you both, Dr. Stagbar and Professor Tavara. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think just to add my view on this is that we need to get our own, definition of education in place. We need to redefine or reorganize what education itself means. Very interesting. My specialization is in curriculum studies, and in curriculum, when you build a curriculum, there are 4 things that everybody has to consider, every curriculum developer. It is the philosophy of the people, the history, the sociology, and the psychological aspect of a certain society. And then I always ask myself, how do we get this, whether it is the philosophy or the psychology, the history, and the sociology, unless we go to the community, unless we work with the community. So education itself basically has to be community-based, rooted in the community. And also when we graduate, as Dr. Tagbar said, we are going to the community. So it's a two-way process. And I remember challenging in one of the Senate meeting, I remember challenging, I challenged the Senate members that we don't have to even build fences, we don't need fence between the community and the universities, rather we should demolish those fences, and people have to freely, the community has to freely come to the university, and we have to also go to the community and get to know each other, work, learn from each other. But I think basically I feel we have got the definition of education wrong. In any case, let's go back to Guade. Guade, please unmute yourself and present your brief question or comment.
Thank you. Isamal, Dr. Salom.
Isamal.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tagbar and Professor Farah. It was a nice presentation. I think some of my questions are already addressed. I just have a few comments about the colleague who asked questions about students' lack of interest in commitment and whatever at Devra Tabor. But I want to tell him one thing which happened while I was a student in Jimma. We were also asking the same question, like we were 4th-year medical students and asking the professor, like, why are we going to the community every time asking them questions about, have you got vaccination cards? Is your child vaccinated? Did you get TT for the mother's vaccination? And the professor said, በአማርኛ ነው ያለው፣ በየቀኑ ክትባት ተከትበሻል ልጅሽ ተከትቧል ወይ እያልክ ስትጠይቃት እኮ ክትባት እንደሚያስፈልግ እያስተማርካት ነው ያለውን አስታውሳለሁ። እና you are educating the community, you are raising awareness, you are doing proper health education actually, as a student even. And then community education, throughout the process, we were making presentations every year. So you are learning the main skills of analyzing, writing a report, collecting data, changing it into a report, defending it in front of, as Professor Tafara said, I remember even the university president used to attend. So defending that data, now reading a research, it ends up being very easy. And that's the best way of learning. That is something people learn in a postgraduate. While when you are in a university every year, at the end of the year, you have been making literally a research and presenting and defending it in front of your professors. And if that is not learning, then what is learning? So my view is we need to define and redefine and agree on the attitude of the teachers and the students on the definition of learning also. We are really obsessed, including myself, in undergraduate with a classroom didactic learning. So lecture is just, learning is defined as an anatomist didacting in a classroom. It's not that community exposure. You go and ask how many times the child is vaccinated, while you are indirectly teaching the mother how many vaccines do children need. So we need a lot of change of attitude on all stakeholders, not just the students, but the teachers, the community, and the administration. I remember there was an issue of attitude between a health center head at one of the attachments and our consultant, our lecturer, because the health center head wanted to be recognized as part of the teaching faculty, which is fair. He was the one daily supervising us, and yet they don't want to recognize any of his efforts. So it needs a lot of attitude change from all the stakeholders. That's my view. Maybe the question which Tagbar has addressed is the issue of resource. Is there any study which compared with, between like those who really have pure non-community attachments education and those who have community-based education? My feeling is that there is, I think, a bit community-based education is more resource intensive in terms of not only finance, physical infrastructure, human resource, because you need a lot. You need extra clinicians who are interested and can go to the community and show the students that actually community attachment is important for clinicians too, not just for junior public health staff to follow the students, which was often happening in Jimma in the final, in some of the years. I think these are my views. Thank you very much. It was such an informative presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gladys. I really appreciate the insights you shared. I will call upon Tariq, but before that, I want to ask the participants to fill a form. The association has posted the link on Google Form, so maybe Dr. Samuel can also link the post again. Post the link again so that people can easily get it. Now I go to Tariku. Please unmute yourself and share your insights or comments, questions.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Dr.?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. First, I would like to thank both the presenters and you. It was a great presentation. My point, this community-based education reminds me 3 years back at Gondar University. I took part of it, like as they said, at TTP. As you said, all it is, I think, depends on the faculty which follows the curriculum. So I think there is something. Okay, thank you. So
Daraji and someone have unmuted themselves. Okay, Dawit, maybe Dawit should also unmute yourself, please. Go ahead, Tariq.
Okay, thanks. So at that time, we were out to the community, and there were titles were given to address, for example, health promotion, like environmental or IPC protocols, and also some collecting data, survey, part of research methodology. So at that time, there was no, any instructors were accompanying us. We were just told at a center of as an orientation, and then we'll go out to the community. So what I feel is, as Dr. Tagbar said, it is the instructors should follow for the students into the community, and they should teach them the way to serve the community practically, and then to feel that it is a useful after they graduating. So as a general, what is my comment is, as a country, we should endorse this community-based education into the universities based on their location. Based on their the society they surround, because it is different in different regions in our country. So that would be great. And then as they said, Dr. Tagbar said, I know it needs resource, but after the community gets, having disease, we cost on medications and building those sophisticated hospitals. So we are losing, the resources. And also after the graduating medical students, currently they only, consider that as a medical doctor, they are a clinicians. They are not believing in public health importance. So so we are losing in the other way so much resources. So we can shift to in the root cause that may help us. As a cycle, as the professor said. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tariku. Tagbar, would you like to address questions, what comments? If you intervene at this point, because I don't see any other hand raised hand. So if you want to share your insight.
I think it's all great comments. I don't think there is anything to add. I think we can wrap it up. If you have any concluding remarks, we can wrap it up. But I just want to reassure everyone here in my capacity as president of the Ethiopian Medical Association, on behalf of the Standing Committee on Medical Education, we are here to help you navigate, implementation of competence-based, community-based medical education. Our purpose is to prepare, educate doctors and healthcare providers that meet the needs of our society, that would make a difference, that would address challenges, that understand the Ethiopia's health system. And trust me, community-based education will help us get there, but we are willing and more than happy to discuss, help challenge ourselves, to improve implementation of community-based education. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Well, so someone is still muted and okay. So yeah, all right. Thank you so much. I think you just reminded me. We need to infuse a certain sense of humor on this conversation, because if you remember, Dr. Tagbar, in one of our curriculum development session on medical education, one of our friends shared us a kind of joke, but a very telling joke in Jimma University, because Jimma University's catchphrase or motto is "We are in the community." They always say we are in the community. And then once this an intoxicated guy who drank a lot came to the university, and he wanted to enter into the university, and the security guards didn't allow him. He was like he was in dispute with them, and he got angry, and finally said, "I know you remember maybe this." He said, "No, you say we are in the community, but you are on the community." So that is, I think, where the fine line, lies. How do we be in the community rather than on the community? Creating this fatigue, avoiding the fatigue, but still focusing on the advantages both the community and the students get. So it needs a thorough planning. It's itself a curriculum development process. It takes a series of consultation, study, action, reflection. If we do this, I think, in fact, at some point, I even suggested the whole national curriculum should be community-based education, not only for medical schools, but every curriculum should be community-based. With that, I don't see any other raised hand, so I will give a chance for Dr. Samuel, if you hear me, if you want to wrap up, or Dr. Tagbar and Professor Tafara, if you'd like to say
Okay.
a summary.
Thank you, Dr. Salamon.
አይሰማም ምንድን ነው?
Disconnect. You're disconnected.
Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? Yeah,
Now we
አሁን
ይሰማል
ይሰማል።
አሁን?
አሁን ይሰማል።
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Solomon. This is a very exciting session on community-based education, and on the behalf of IMA, our executive director couldn't be able to join this session because the server cannot accommodate more than 100 people. But this community-based education webinar is very exciting, and I've never seen such very populous participants. And the speaker, the moderator, and the invited guests from Jimma University, Professor Tafarra, who have presented their presentation in a very exciting manner. And I think we all have got a very excellent notion about community-based education. So I think I'm not in a position to wrap up this session, but I would like to inform you that we have posted the link on the chat box. So the post test need to be filled so that you will be certified and get a continuing education unit. Ethiopian Medical Education will provide you a continuing education unit so that you can relicense your paper. So if Dr. Tagwar is allowing me to invite him to just close this session, even if he's a speaker, he's a president of the Ethiopian Medical Association. I will give a time for him, a floor for him, and close the session. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Sir.
No, let's go to Dr. Tagwar. I also say goodbye here. I sincerely appreciate the participation of everyone. And also, like Dr. Samuel mentioned, this is one way of learning and improving our profession. So I'm very happy that the association is doing this. So we should do this more and more. Thank you again. Please, Dr. Tagwar, take the floor and wrap up.
Thank you, Dr. Solomon. I think thank you so much for your time, for sharing your deep reflections. I would like to thank everyone for your patience, 2 hours. You showed your commitment and interest in the subject. Sami and the IMA team, Professor Tafarra, for sharing your rich insight on community-based education. As I mentioned earlier, Ethiopian Medical Association will continue to support medical schools to improve quality of education provision. This medical education webinar series would also be addressing other important educational strategies. Have a good weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tagwar. Probably some of you may not have finished filling the form. And in the meantime, I would like to inform you that next week by this time, 3 p.m., we will have another webinar on curriculum integration. So all of you are invited here. So fill your form and take your time to finish filling the form, and have a good